Welcome back to our fourth episode. This is Mark again from the Smoky Mountain Station. We are part of the whistleblower movement composed of expatriates from China, led by Mr. Miles Guo. And here we are trying to expose the Chinese Communist Party's plan to control the world and to also explain to you the origin of COVID-19. We call it the CCP virus. I'm sure a lot of listeners would have really hard time to believe how can the CCP would develop this virus in their lab and leak it out to a major city in central China and then affecting the whole world. And indeed, it's very difficult for us to believe at the beginning, but it's very hard to argue against facts and evidences. To help you understand why CCP can do such things, we think it's very helpful to show you the religious persecution carried out by the Chinese Communist Party and to explain to you why they do that and their deeply embedded ideology, which make them have no fear for the God, and they can do things that's beyond imagination. So ever since the Chinese Communist Party controlled mainland China in 1949, there has been endless persecutions by the atheist CCP regime, both against the different religions as well as normal people. In fact, millions of people have died due to the CCP's regime. To understand that, we probably can start with the CCP ideology. Like any communist party, this is an atheist party that they don't believe there's a supreme being. They don't believe there's any God. As a result, it's totally materialistic. And there's a famous saying by Mao Zedong, basically the first Communist Party leader and chairman of the for the mainland China since 1949. He said, "Power grows out of the barrel of a gun." So basically, either I have enough power and I can control you, I can enslave you, or I would pretend that I want to cooperate with you. But the only reason I'm nice to you is because I'm not strong enough. As soon as I'm strong enough, I want to be the God. I want to control everything. So that basically explains a lot of their thoughts and their actions. Because they believe there's no God and they want to be the God. They want to control everything. And they fear that people, they are fearful of religious people. Let's say, that's non-compliant. Because if someone, let's say, whether it's Christian or Muslim, if they believe that there's a supreme being that's higher than the Communist Party, then they would worry that eventually I'm going to lose control. I cannot enslave the people in China anymore. As a result, they want to persecute all the non-compliant religions. And it's also, oftentimes you would see CCP leaders, they want to be worshipped as a god, a demigod. For example, Chairman Mao, you see his statues everywhere in China. And now with the party secretary and President Xi, he's also being worshipped as, everything he does is right and he knows everything. And this totalitarian regime, they try to extinguish all non-compliant religions so that they can exert very tight control throughout China. And people cannot be loyal to religion except for CCP. Now let's look at several different religions. And if you are familiar with the Chinese central media, or basically every media in China is a propaganda outlet for the Chinese Communist Party, they always claim that they have freedom of speech, they have religious freedom. And that is, I can tell you, ridiculous. For example, Christianity has been persecuted throughout the years, for the past 70 years, ever since the Communist Party took control of mainland China. And here you can see some pictures that they would tear down churches. And for those churches that are so-called compliant, because the only basis for the Communist Party claim they have religious freedom is that they do have churches, but those churches have to be a puppet of the Chinese Communist Party. They basically have to be an echo chamber. They have to make sure all the constituents are fully loyal to the party first and then the church. Otherwise, we'll tear down your church. For example, this is a compliant church, how it looked like. You could have President Xi's picture in the middle and instead of Jesus Christ. Or sometimes, well, they are nice enough to allow you to have Jesus Christ, but you basically have to have Chairman Mao and Chairman Xi next to him. And they do not like the Ten Commandments because the first term says, "You shall have no other gods before me." Well, the Communist Party want to make sure that there's no God before the CCP. That's why they're replacing even the Ten Commandments. And there are, let me assure you, there are real Christians in China, and they are typically in underground churches, and they face the danger of being arrested and disappeared every day. But the Communist Party keep on trying to say that these true Christians, they are, for some reason, they are conspiring against the Chinese people. This is another thing that's very evil for the CCP. They tend to say the CCP represent Chinese people. So Chinese people basically are CCP. So if you are believing God, you think God is greater than CCP, then you are against the party, so you're against the Chinese people, so you're against the whole China. That is their propaganda, and they try to paint everyone, any religion that they don't like, to be non-compliant. I'm going to persecute you because you are against Chinese. That's a total lie. Well, Buddhism is another religion that has been in China for over 1,000 years. And the Buddhist monks are also, affected by the Chinese Communist Party in terms of, they can even have party leadership in Buddhist monasteries. And they also commercialize the Buddhism temples to basically make it as a enterprise that make money. So, for example, if you go to the temple, if you want to make a wish, you have to donate money. And they want the Buddhists to be corrupt. This is another interesting thing for the Chinese Communist Party. They want to have some degree of corruption, both within the party as well as in these religious institutions. Why? Because they can exert tighter control against you. For example, if you are head of a large Buddhist temple, you control many, many monks. I'm going to give you a lot of money, or maybe good cars or mysteries. So I have all the information because CCP have all the information about these individuals. So they can exert very tight control. If you don't listen to the CCP doctrine or instructions, if you're non-compliant, the CCP is going to expose you, and you could be thrown into prison and you lose everything. So they oftentimes would like people to be corrupt so that they can have tighter control. And Muslim, I'm sure you have heard about the Uyghurs in northwestern part of China. They have been persecuted particularly bad over the past 10 years under Xi's leadership. And many, many Muslims, actually, some say over millions of Muslims are put into these so-called re-education schools. But in fact, they are concentration camps, and they are forced to be brainwashed. and they have to participate in forced labor, and there are a lot of sad stories about these. So this shows you how ridiculous their claim is in terms of religious freedom. Now, it's very clear that the party, they are afraid of these true religious people because they want to be, there should be no other gods before CCP. That's what they want. And they want everyone to fear CCP and being compliant. And within China. Now, their plan is not just controlling everybody within China. Mr. Miles Guo has exposed for the first time 3 years ago about the so-called BGY plan by the Chinese Communist Party. I mentioned in the beginning, the CCP, they believe in power. They don't believe in anything else. Basically, the reason I'm still dealing with you, I talk about signing an agreement with you, is because I'm not strong enough. If I'm strong enough, from my gun barrel, I'm going to enslave you. So they want to control everybody within China. They also want to exert their power throughout the world. And they understand that religion is an important tool. And they have to, if they want to control and affect people outside of China, they have to somehow work with religious leaders. So one of the things the Communist Party is doing is they are infiltrating the Vatican. And according to Mr. Guo, CCP has bribed at least $2 billion to Vatican since Pope Francis took office in 2013. And Vatican has been very interestingly stayed silent towards CCP's persecution against Christians. And there were news even talking about Pope Francis would be visiting China and develop some sort of formal relationship with the Communist Party, the biggest atheist dictatorship throughout the world. Now, coming back to the BGY plan, that's basically how they control Vatican and how they control a lot of important people throughout the world outside of China. The B stands for blue, so basically controlling or hacking your private information and use that to blackmail people. G stands for gold, so basically bribing leaders through money. And again, you see a pattern here. They want you to be corrupted so that they can control you. And Y stands for yellow, so offering sex, again, to satisfy your needs, because this is a fully atheist regime. They don't have any belief other than, I want to be powerful, I want to control you and enslave everyone. So there's no such thing as unethical. Everything can be done, will be done. Just to give you a few examples. CCP has supported human gene editing experiment in China. This was carried out by Professor Jiankui He. In China is He Jiankui. He created the world's first gene-edited twin babies. And guess what? He has received funding from the Chinese Communist Party, and he has gotten proper approval to carry out these experiments. But as soon as he reported his results, he got questioned and criticized by scientists throughout the world. And then the CCP threw him under the bus, basically saying, this guy is a crazy scientist, and this has nothing to do with us. That's a very typical pattern. The CCP, if they can get away with something, they would do it. And if they cannot get away with it, they find a scapegoat. And then they say, we are still doing fine. And it's this guy that's crazy. It has nothing to do with us. And again, Dr. Li Mengyan, she escaped from the Hong Kong P3 lab. She was appeared in an interview again today and confirmed again that COVID-19 was developed in PLA labs as a bioweapon. And she has shown a report that she's currently developing showing more scientific evidence pointing towards CCP. And again, understanding that CCP has no fear of God, The only thing they want is more power and more control, not for just people in China, but people all over the world. It's easier for you to understand. And another thing is organ harvesting. And that has been one of the things that the CCP has been using to persecute people of religion. For example, Falun Gong members, as well as the Uyghur Muslims. I'm citing here a NBC News report. Here, it was stated that it's no longer a question of whether organ harvesting in China is happening. We just need an urgent response to save these people's lives. In fact, China is the only one country where you can book an organ. For example, if you need a liver transplant, you can contact proper channel in China and providing them your DNA information, and they would guarantee within a month or two, they will have something ready for you. Just that sink in for a little bit and think about it. It's with very heavy heart that I'm sharing with all of you about this. And I hope that people throughout the world can open their eyes to what has been going on with this COVID-19 and a lot of things that happened for decades, like persecution of Christianity in China ever since the CCP came into power. Thank you for your attention.